This is fairly complicated. All right, 27th of February 2023. I'm gonna record on eimì. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back and review this real quick. So we got eimì, e, and e-scene are going to be the the future the future of meaning I will go. So eimì is I will go. E is you will go. E-scene, he, she, or it will go. These overlap with the consonants and vowels of I am and you are. But the problem is there's a circumflex over the smooth breathing mark. That circumflex on eimì and e means this is not the same word. Eimì here does not mean I am. It means I will go. And e here does not mean you are. It means you will go. E-scene looks a whole lot like the E-scene as in they are, as if I would have said, Eanthropy, E-scene, Sophie. The men are wise. But this is not E-scene. This is E-scene with the circumflex accent over the rough breathing, of smooth breathing mark. And so this is a different kind of E-scene. And instead of it being third person plural, it's actually third person singular. He will go. So I could say, Eanthropos E-scene. The man will go, like, say, to the store, to the agora, to the marketplace, okay? I'd say E-scene, he will go. That's pretty strange, okay? And then you always have the stem E, E, and E. And then automatically you get to the plural and something really, really very strange happens. All of a sudden, the epsilon disappears. It just magically goes bye-bye and you're stuck with something completely different. You're stuck with emen. You get emen, ita, and easin, easin, with the stress on the e. So easin with the stress on e is easin. This is very, very, very strange because never before do you have this combination, and it's very, very bizarre. It's an irregular verb, most unique, and just very crazy because this isn't even how it appears in the present tense. In the present tense, this is going to line up with um, the verb erkame. Let me check how the chapter shows this to you actually. What does it tell you? It just says to come or to go. So it matches the present form going with erkame. But the thing is it's not necessarily erkame. It's gonna match with erkame. By Kini Greek, this is already gone, and you got elefsime for I will go. And when Jesus talks, he doesn't use this word in the New Testament. This is only classical Greek because this is so strange and eventually it disappears. But we're going to talk about why, even though it's unique to classical Greek, it's not unique if you compare it to Sanskrit and if you compare it to Lingua Latina over on the far, right if you're looking at the board, left if you're the teacher, uh, on this direction. And so this is the magic trick. You might say this is crazy because you got an A stem here, A in the Eurasian pronunciation, E in the modern Greek pronunciation. It'd be eimì or eimì. This is a long vowel and it's a diphthong. And then you got emen, ita, easin, and this is going to be just a iota, and just a iota. What's crazy is the singular has a stem with epsilon iota as a long vowel as a diphthong, and the plural only has iota, 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 three iotas, and this is unique to the verb. What we can see when we move on to the sister language of Sanskrit is the miracle that automatically now we don't think Greek is all that strange and this is all that irregular because now we're comparing it to its sister, and all of a sudden now we can see what Sanskrit's got. Sanskrit has the word eimì, meaning I go or I am going. Okay. Unfortunately, this is not a future, so it does not match with the future element of the eimì in Greek. But what we do know is it's very, very close. Like in Sanskrit, if I do say I am going, Sanskrit has the idea this could potentially mean future, but it's not classified as a future. This is actually a present stem in Sanskrit, and then this is going to be the future in Greek. That's the only difference as far as tenses go. But if we compare the words, eimi with eimi. Okay, the Erasmians would say eimi, eimi and eimi, or eimi and eimi. It's that similar, meaning I am going. Adefia just disappeared, but I'm going to keep teaching if my recording is still going. So, Adefia can watch the recording. Adefia, you disappeared for a second, but since I have this recording, I'm going to try to keep teaching.
Yes.
I might recap something, but I'll send you the recording so you
Yes.
can watch this even a couple times because this is quite complicated to some extent. Okay, are you able to hear okay now?
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Yes. So,
Okay.
why is it that the circumflex for the singular got deleted when it came to the plural?
That's a good question. So the thing to remember is that in the singular, there's a circumflex, circumflex, circumflex. Okay. All of the singular have a circumflex. All of the singular have the epsilon and the eta. Sorry, not eta. Epsilon and the iota, and they have it together to make an e long diphthong. So you have epsilon and iota together making a long diphthong, and then long diphthong, and then a long diphthong. And then these are only in the singular, which match in Sanskrit. This letter right here is actually the long A sound, and it's going to equal a lengthened. This is going to be the long form, and it's going to be, if you make it a short form, it's going to be this E sound, which we're going to write like this. Okay. So what in Sanskrit they call this the vritti, which means a short vowel, and this is the guna, means a long vowel. And in Sanskrit they actually match the vowel, so there's a zero, which is nothing. You don't have any vowel at all. And then this is guna. I'm sorry, vritti first, and then guna. So this is I don't know where to write this. I'll write it down. Where should I do it? Okay, I'm gonna write it on the side. Let's see. Zero grade guna. Zero grade guna. So guna is here. Okay. Zero grade guna. This means short vowel. Vritti is going to be here. This means long vowel. Where am I gonna write this? Right here, maybe. I'm just gonna write vritti. Okay. So what we know from Sanskrit is Sanskrit actually sees this guna as a short form of this vritti as a long form. So this I is actually going to be the same vowel pattern. It just lengthens to an E. And so this I is called a guna, the E is called a vritti, and it's the same vowel. So in Sanskrit, you don't see these as two different vowels. You see this as the same vowel in just another form. They call it a grade, another grade. So you have one form in this grade, another form in this grade, but it's not changing to be an entirely different vowel. It's just moving from grade guna to grade vritti, which in English would be grade short vowel to grade long vowel. But it's the exact same vowel. It's the exact same thing. It just moved up a class. And so the same vowel in the long form is over here in the present tense, and in the once we get into the why did I say present tense? I meant to say in the singular. And the singular is going to have all long vowels, and then in the plural it's going to be all short vowels. And when we go back to Greek, we're going to see the miracle continues to be the exact same. All these where it's a long vowel, epsilon and iota combined, this is going to be seen as the equivalent of our Sanskrit vritti here. This, even though it's two vowels put together, in Sanskrit we're going to say this is the long vowel. This is the long vowel that's called the vritti, and long vowel and long vowel are in the same place. Long vowel are in the same place, and then the long vowels and the long vowels are in the exact same place. Okay, so the vowels match Sanskrit 100%. Long vowels in the same place, and then you go to the plural, And now look what you get. You get eimach, eta, and yanti. And what happened is you see the long vowels in the same, oh, sorry, now it's the short vowels in the same place again. The I here is going to be the same as the iota. The I here is going to be the same as this iota. And then this Y is actually the same letter in Sanskrit, just written a different way. Just like in English, an I and a Y are written the same way, different ways. These are written different ways over here, but they make the same sound. And the only reason you write it the equivalent of a Y instead of an I is when you have a vowel immediately following it. And you can see there's a vowel immediately following it. So it's yanti, just like in Greek, there's a vowel immediately following it. And the crazy thing about this is, what vowel do we end up having? We have an alpha appearing in the middle of where we never expect an alpha to appear. We see an alpha pop up. Yes.
I'm listening, sir. I'm listening.
Great. So you see that alpha, and you see in Sanskrit they also have an A. So, and it pops up in the exact same place. This A popped up in the exact place as this A in Greek, and then the letter right before the A is going to be a consonantal iota, which is the same as a consonantal E in Sanskrit. Yasin. So you got Yasin. Yasin just like Ya. So the vowels match 100% Sanskrit to Greek. Now, I'm going to throw in the Latin. Okay, Latin, when we do the vowels, ao, es, and each, notice the e's actually do appear in the singular. So they do not match. It's not all a's and it switches. They actually do have e's in the singular, so that the Latin does not match the Latin doesn't match the Greek in the vowels. But when we go to the plural, what's interesting is the emus, eunt, this eunt, even though it's not going to be the same as yasin or yanti, what's interesting here is that we don't expect there to be some type of a elongation of, we would expect it to be with like an I and it'd be eunt or something if it followed the same pattern, but the I makes it a little bit longer, and we can see that as the same thing that happened to this being a Y and an A put together. Over here we have an E and a U put together, eunt, with the yanti and the iasin. Even though we don't see the same vowels, we see two vowels here put together, two vowels here put together, and two vowels here put together in the third person plural, where if we go to the second person plural, we got eta, and etis. And notice how similar that is too. Eta, and etis. And then emin, eimach, and emis. They all have an M in it, and they all have the I.
Yeah.
Eimach and emis. And this ach sound is usually going to equate an S sound in Latin. That's something you see all the time, actually. And it does frequently parallel that ach sound is going to frequently parallel a ni, a final ni in Greek. And so these are actually going to parallel letter for letter as far as the final word. The final letters are different, but they're going to be different throughout the language, and it's going to match. You can look at paradigm after paradigm where a Greek verbal ended or either noun or verbal ended in ni, Sanskrit ends with a ka, and then the Latin ends with a final s. So these are going to match completely. The plurals are going to match completely. Going back to the singular, even though we see the Sanskrit matching with the vowels, Sanskrit and Greek matches the vowels almost identically. You got the vowels match. If I take a step back over here, and now I'm going to just compare Sanskrit to Latin. What's interesting, Sanskrit to Latin, we have the endings, a, me, a, she, and then a, t. Amy, a, she, a, t is going to match with your ao, a, and then you got east and eat. And so we have a t here and a t here. We have an s here and an s here. And so those guys are going to match. Notice in Greek way over here, we don't have an S. We don't have a sigma. It's just E. Where in Sanskrit, there's an S, and in Latin, there's an S.
Hello?
So in the consonants, they're closer to Latin, even though the vowels are going to be closer to Greek. So it's kind of like Sanskrit has given all the vowels to Greek and gave all the consonants to Latin. So Greek's got all the vowels, the consonants. We got S from Sanskrit, T from Sanskrit, and then we have the moose or from the ma. We have the teeth from the ta, and we have the ayunt from the yanti. So notice the N and the T go over to Latin, and we have the Latin N and the T. They go. So we can say that Sanskrit's paradigm is going to be able to match 100% vowel for vowel Sanskrit to Greek, and it's going to match 100% consonant for consonant with the Latin. That's going to be how that works. With the only exception this N. All right, Adefi, are you able to hear now?
Hello, sir. I'm listening.
Yes. Okay, so what I was saying is, so we talked for quite a time about these vowels in Greek, and we can see that if we started off with the Sanskrit instead of starting off with the Greek, we can see that the Sanskrit alone has given Greek all of its vowels. That is, if we take the hypothesis that Sanskrit's older than Greek, which may or may not be true, okay? But if we think of it from starting off with Sanskrit, what it looks like from starting off with Sanskrit is that Greek either was given or just happens to have the same vowel pattern. Long vowels in the singular, short vowels in the plural, or vritti in the singular and guna in the plural. Now, when we go to Latin, on the other hand, Sanskrit does not give the same vowel patterns. We see that there is two I's, a short I and a long I in the singular. And that is not the same as Sanskrit. That's not the same as Greek. Greek and Sanskrit are 100% on par with having the singular all with the same long vowel and the plural all with the same short vowel. Latin does not follow that pattern. But what we do see is the pattern of the consonants in Latin following the consonants in Sanskrit. So I'm going to go back over to show you that starting off with eimi, that me, that M sound is going to match with this M sound in Sanskrit. And if we take it as a starting point from Sanskrit first, what happens is Sanskrit's where you start. And if we take consonants now instead of vowels, consonant M goes to consonant me. It doesn't show up in the Latin unless, of course, we want to go back into the a bomb, I was going, or something like that. So we can find the M, but we have to go looking for it and depart from our singular. Okay, abo maybe if I will go. Okay, or no, hold on, I think it's ebo. Ebo. Let me check that 1 second real quick. Future is ebo. Yes, ebo. But we do have the M coming up in the imperfect. So there isn't such thing as an M in Latin in the first singular, M in Sanskrit, and an M in Greek. But we have to go back to the imperfect or a couple other places to find the M in the first person singular. But when we start off with the second person, all of a sudden our sh sound here, that's like an S with a little thing on it, our sh sound, which in Sanskrit, the sh and the S are just they're the same sound, and sometimes this is an S and sometimes it's an a sh sound in Sanskrit. Don't worry about that. The sh sound does not appear in Greek. And in Latin, there is no sh sound, but the equivalent would be an S by itself. We do have the S by itself. So we would say that the consonant here from Latin is the same consonant. The consonant T here in Latin, eti, is the same as eat. The consonant T is the same. Notice here in Sanskrit, there's an I at the end, so it's eimi, aci, or ashi, sorry, eimi, ashi, eti. That's the exact same pattern. So we got an E at the end of all of these, where we don't have anything at the end popping up on the Greek again. I'm sorry, popping up in the Latin again. We just have an end in a sigma or an S. We have an end in a T. What we see is the Latin only is equal to the consonants. T in Latin, T in Sanskrit. S in Latin and S in Sanskrit. And M in Latin and M in Sanskrit. The consonants are the only thing that is exactly the same Latin to Sanskrit. where when we take these final E's, what we do find is, I mean, technically, I don't know if we could take that as the final E or not, but we could technically go for them and try to find them. At least for the top and the bottom, we could say that the sigma and the tav are actually equivalents, even though that's more or less true. But there are times in Greek where you see a T or a tav and a sigma go back and forth, like thalassa for thalata, or so on and so forth. So we could say a T and an S are equal from Sanskrit to Greek. I don't know about this final E sound. We could say hypothetically it used to be a double E and it disappeared. I don't know if that would be true or not. But anyways, vowels are vowel for vowel Greek and Sanskrit. Consonants are consonant for consonant Sanskrit to Latin. Now going on to the plural, we have emak, etak, and yanti. We already saw that the vowels, the first vowel I and I is the same. I and I is the same. The Y is that iota. The A is that alpha. And then we have a little bit of a problem with the consonants. The consonants don't match. But when we go over to our Latin, all of a sudden the consonants match again. We have an M for our first person plural, and we have an M for the first person plural. This ox sound frequently is going to match your S sound in Latin. The t sound, which is an aspirated T, not a th sound, but in Sanskrit it just makes ta, is going to be the equivalent of this T sound in Latin. And the final A, we don't have any kind of final S. Latin just adds that just because it's Latin, and it always does that for Latin. And then yanti, we have an N and a T put together in Sanskrit. And again, what do we have in Latin? An N and a T put together. So what we see is the consonants, consonant for consonant is always the same. But vowels, why do we have an E at the end there? We don't have an E at the end. It's not A and T in Latin. No. But where do we get it? The E? We get an E right here in the Greek. So the Greek vowels, vowel for vowel is an equivalent, but not consonant for consonant. And then in Latin, consonant for consonant, there's an equivalent, but not vowel for vowel. So Sanskrit stands in the middle between Greek on the one hand and Latin on the other hand. And it's this hodgepodge of the vowels of the Greek eimi and the consonants of the Latin eimi. And so you can either think that Greek plus Latin can get put together in equal Sanskrit, or you can think that Sanskrit can be chopped in half and you put the vowels over here and the consonants over here. And then the vowels are going to turn into Greek and the consonants turn into Latin. Either way, it's a very, very strange, bizarre triad of three sister languages that are very similar, but they're also different. I should also mention that this men ending goes to the mak ending and the mus, and then the t here is going to also go to the ta and then the tis. And so technically we have an epsilon matching an A sound and also matching the east. Okay, and that's going to be that's probably your farthest stretch we've had so far, where I had an east, an ah, and an s. So we got one s sound, an ah sound, and then an east. Those are three different vowel sounds, and then the one ends with an east. Those are going to be your farthest stretches where I don't know where those sounds are coming from or how they fit together. I just know they all are vowels, and when you put it in the whole word, ita, and itis, you can see that they sound similar, even though there's going to have one in an epsilon, one in an a, and one in an east. Ita, itis, they all sound like ita, itis. It all sounds the same. And then the yasin, yanti, and ayunt, they all have a similar flow to it. So, the only thing I want to add to this is going to be comparing the dual. Let me run over the dual real quick, and then I'll open up for some comments, and we could talk about this for a couple minutes before I erase the board and we move on to something else. Let me show you dual. Okay, so I don't know if we've ever really talked about dual. We probably haven't, because you don't really get dual until
No, we haven't talked yet, but
a long time later. So the basic thing about dual is just this is something special to classical Greek. It drops out shortly after classical Greek time period, and also classical Sanskrit. This is something that's dropped out of Latin by the time we start getting things in Latin. Okay, so we don't have any Latin to compare it to. We don't have any Latin old enough as written form. This means you both will go with second person dual. So it's E-tone. E-tone means you both will go. So not you singular, not you plural. It's dual, meaning two of you. You both will go, which would be E-tone in Greek and etok in Sanskrit. So again, a ni and a ka is going to match, just like the ni over, where was it? Over here. No, wait, no, it was over here, matched the ak over here. And so this ni and the ka is going to match. Now, moving on to, why did I erase that? I want to check my paradigm. Checking the paradigm to make sure I didn't erase it because it's not in there. I think that was an accident that I erased it. Yes, it was an accident. Sanskrit does have this ka. It's okay. And so notice that the ka here is going to match the ni here, just like the ka here matches the ni here, and just like the ka over there and the ni over there match. Okay, so these guys match. The e is going to match. The ta is going to match. But notice in Sanskrit, there's an aspirated t, which is a ta, and a non-aspirated t, which is ta. These two are going to be different. So they're going to be ita and ita. One's ita and one's ita, and they're very similar in how you pronounce them. I'm not even making the proper distinction with the way I'm pronouncing them. They're very, very close. The way my teacher showed me is if I had a flashcard here, the one ita, I would say ita, and the flashcard would move, and the other ita, I wouldn't have any air coming out, and the flashcard would stay frozen. So this one is the flashcard staying frozen. This one is you're going to breathe a little bit. So they're very, very similar, but they're different in Sanskrit. In Greek, though, you have E-tone and E-tone, the exact same form, and they're exactly the same in Greek. For you both will go, and they both will go. So if I said O Tristanos, K, O Flindos, E-tone, I'm saying Tristan and Flint will go. If I said Euadelphia and you over here, maybe you Donna and you Adelphia, it doesn't matter the gender, it could be a boy and a girl, two girls or two boys, it's just two people. If I'm addressing them as you, I could say you singular and you singular, which makes a dual. You two or you both, you can translate it either way, there is you two or you both will go, and that's E-tone, which is etok. So we see the entire paradigm, both in Sanskrit and in classical Greek, is actually paralleled 100%. At least when we talk the vowels, the consonants are a little bit of a there's some minor differences in the consonants where we've seen where in the Latin when you go, that's just telling me about halfway out of time. Back when we go over here to the Latin, we've seen that the consonants are always the same, even though the vowel pattern is a little bit mixed up in Latin, where the Greek and the Sanskrit had the vowel patterns just exactly the same. So that is a complete overview of eimi. I call this my girlfriend, Amy. I told one of the kids at work one time a year or two ago, I said, I have a new girlfriend. Her name's Amy, because I was coming up with all this. And they were like, great, how old is she? You know, what color of hair does she have and all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, Amy, you got to know Greek and Sanskrit and Latin, and it's a little bit of a far stretch to say she's blonde or anything like that. But this is my girlfriend, okay? Amy. Go, Amy. I will go. Amy, I'm going, and AO, and so on. So that is my summary of Amy. That's a lot of information. I got it recorded, so you can review it 100 million times if you want. Tell me, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on Amy?
Yeah. Honestly, this has been a one. I don't know how to say it. I begin to see this, like, some cognates and derivative from the languages that.
Yeah, do you see why this
it's true
could be
that they are all Indo-European. They have similarities.
Yeah, do you see now why?
I think I think we should get serious with this language so that we can deconstruct it, because when you were doing it, I was seeing the similarities, the difference. We need to go much deeper into the languages and deconstruct it, sir.
For sure, for sure. And that's something where what I want to do right now is really focus on getting our Greek down really well. But the thing is
Okay, sir.
Sanskrit's a very difficult language. It's possible to only study Sanskrit, but it's difficult. It's more difficult than Greek in how many combinations and stuff there are, and even how many cases. There's a couple more cases. But here's the thing: is that if you look at Sanskrit, instead of the eyes of, oh my goodness, I can't figure this, this is so complicated. If you look at Sanskrit with the eyes of Greek, you can actually see these are sisters. And so
Okay.
automatically the difficulty lessens extraordinarily. And so that's why I would say get through Athanadza, and I'll take you even further in Athanadza with comparing it with modern Greek and how modern Greek fits together. And then after you really get your Greek down, if you start learning Sanskrit and review the Greek with, like, go for the Greek the second time around, reviewing it all over again, and then matching it all up with Sanskrit, you'll see a lot of this kind of stuff happen where in my opinion, it lessens the memorization because it just makes sense. Instead of having to memorize randomly, this is Yasin, and I don't know how many times I'd had to repeat to myself, this is Yasin, and this crazy little thing, eimì, and asin, or eimì, esin, goes to imen, ita, Yasin. I could repeat this to myself maybe once a month, and I still might end up getting it backwards because it's just so strange. But as soon as I have something to compare it to, like Sanskrit and Latin, all of a sudden the bizarreness of it goes away because now there's something that it's got in common. It has a family. You see, it's not just all by itself weird. It's got a whole family that it's actually very similar to. So, any other comments or questions on this?
No, honestly, sir, this is perfect. Following through. Okay, like a question. So
Yes.
with the eimì, with the circumflex, it makes it I will. It makes it a future tense, right?
In Greek, that is what it is. It's going to be a future. It's going to be I will go, like a future. So yeah.
Okay. So without the circumflex, it will just be I am, right? Without the circumflex.
Well, technically, without the circumflex, it's an entirely new word. It's a different word. And so, just like in English, we can have words like I go to the store and this is too much coffee, and they sound the same. But if I add that extra O, all of a sudden I'm talking about two as in like too much, or two as in like I'm coming to, meaning also. There's other words that sound the same, but they're spelled slightly differently, and that's what we're dealing with this. It looks exactly like the me as the I am, but it's not that word. It's I would have to say like a homophone sounding the same. Okay. And the freakiest part is this E scene that sounds the same as that they are, and it means he will go. So it doesn't even have the same person. It's not third person. I'm sorry, it's same number. It's got the same person, but a different number. It's singular. He will go, she will go, it will go. And in the other one, E scene is they will go. And oh sorry, they are. Okay, versus he or she will go. So it's confusing because it even sounds and looks exactly like the false friend in a different number, the singular instead of the plural, or the plural instead of the singular. So,
word, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Any other
really
questions?
No, really, sir. You've done all the job.
So for right now, I want you to just be aware that this verb is out there. And when we see it in a reading, recognize, oh, that's that one cool eimì verb that's like Sanskrit and Greek. I mean, Sanskrit and Latin. That's what you're going to think of it right now. Once we come back, say in a few months, and go over it again, then it's going to get down a little bit deeper. And then if we come back a few months more in the future, it'll come back even deeper. And so the idea though is that I want this verb to be ingrained in your head that it's not a stranger to society, where most people that study Greek, just to be honest, they get to this verb and they just keep on going and it never sticks in their memory. It's confusing and they're just like, oh my goodness, I don't get it. And then they just keep going, turn the page. And I want it to be a little bit more than that. I want you to see the similarities. Even though you haven't studied Sanskrit as of yet and Latin, we haven't gotten to our special friend AO yet. This is a good word to know in Latin too. AO is going to come up a lot. Actually, you do know this word from just the simple X before it. Okay, what does exit mean?
Hello.
Yeah, instead of he goes, what does exit mean? He
So what?
goes X, he goes out. Never saw that
Exit.
one coming, did you?
To.
So
Hello.
X means out, okay,
Yes.
out, and
Yes.
then X eat means he is going out. Exit.
Woo!
You never saw that one coming. So that is part of our friend EC, ET, or AT, sorry, ECAT and eat. You just put an X before the
Wow.
eat, and it means he's going out. So you actually have used that before, just didn't know about it.
Wow.
Yeah, that is exit. And you might see in a stage performance like in Shakespeare, they'll have the actor exit, okay, and it'll put exit as he's exiting the stage. And then if it's two actors or more, instead of saying exit, what do they actually put in the stage performance? They say exeunt. They'll actually put exeunt. They have exeunt for they are going out. Um, you see this in plays, at least like when I was going through my Shakespeare class last semester, they would have one person exit the stage, two or more people would exeunt the stage.
Wow.
And so this is exactly what's happening here. We got our exit friend with exit. And there's several variations. There's several variations going out, going in, stuff like that. So anyways, this is actually a very useful word to know. And it's very, very strange how it shows up where it does and how it does actually. Very strange. So anything else you want to comment on our friend eimi?
I'll go over the recording and I'll get
Go
back
over
to
the
you because
recording too.
yeah.
I'm gonna erase the board then. We got it all recorded. Thankfully, hopefully it works. I don't have any technical errors. Otherwise I'll just have to go over all this again and make another video. But this is really good because I like this eimi. She is somewhat of my girlfriend, at least for right now.